Hello.
Good evening, Sham.
Singapore is in Malaysia.
Yeah. Welcome back home.
Yeah. Home to my early home and not my current home, but my early home. See, father is watching over me. Okay, so you better watch out.
So it's home. Your father only asked me to remind you. Just remember your grounds. Okay, you're back home.
Yeah, when it serves me well, I remember it.
Okay, we have always served you well, which is why you have had such a good life.
I've come back.
Yes.
Good afternoon, Mother. Good evening, Mother.
Good evening, Sham.
We're matching in color today.
Exactly, right?
So
okay, and I like the way your hair is flying away.
Yes, courtesy of the wind that finally decided to blow because it's freaking hot today, and I'm like, I want to die. Okay. But we need to bring our guest on, so I am going to do the introduction and introduce our guest Sharma Kumari, so that we can bring her on. Don't bring her on yet, okay? Okay, all right. Now Sharma has a very interesting. I was looking at her LinkedIn profile, right? And if you haven't looked at her LinkedIn profile, you need to go look at it, right? It's very interesting career. Okay, there's the before and then there's the after. Okay, so there's the before, which was in corporate, and corporate also is very colorful. I didn't know she was a news anchor. Did you know that she's a news anchor with RTM? Okay, I didn't know that. Yeah, okay, so that was new for me, right? And then she did a variety of different roles, and I think that positioned her really, really well when she moved into the last corporate role that she had, where she started off in training and learning and development, and ended off by being the head of talent management, which positions her really, really well for her being here today. All right. Now that was the before. And then after corporate, she moved into our space. As if it wasn't crowded enough already. Okay.
Business.
All right. But a space very, very focused and specialized in talent. All right. Managing talent. So we're going to bring Sharma up to share her wisdom, her experience as a practitioner, both in the corporate space as well as now in the consulting space. Right? Shall we bring her up to the stage?
I'll bring her up.
You know what you're doing or not? Okay. No. You are not the focus. Okay. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Very nice. Hi, Sharma.
Hello. I heard every word that you guys said.
Do.
Yeah. Yeah, of course I did. I mean, it's a lot. I mean, you guys color code, match yourselves, and then just leave me out in the black, not in the white. But that's fine. Thank you so much.
You need to make sure you stand out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. So you need different.
I was going to say, how hard we have to work to match up with you.
Oh. Yeah, exactly.
The older you get, the faster you accept compliments and just say thank you. Thank you, Mama.
Thank you. Yes.
Sharma, this one I get it. I understand.
Yeah, I don't say anymore like no la. I know. Yes la. Take it. Just take it. Because life is, as you get older, they are fewer and far between.
Correct. That is true. That is true. Mallory, you're going to get the ball rolling because I am going to say hello to all the people on chat while you ask Sharma the first question. Okay?
Before I answer the question, Sharma, I forgot to tell you that you look really good today. So in case you forgot to give me a compliment, you can try it later. Okay, moving on.
I'll think about it.
Sharma, so thank you so much for joining us. I think it's been great pleasure both working with you in the past as a client, right? You were my client. And, now to see that you've transitioned to our world and hopefully made it brighter. And, I think I've worked with you in the sense that you were my client. Plus, I think we've worked together on some projects, right? Where I've actually seen how passionate you are, right? You are complete, you're so passionate. And I love the way that you put people at the center of not business but HR, as it's supposed to be. And that's what I love about you. So we're very happy today to talk about talent acquisition with you. Now, before we do that, I think your fan has come up. His name is Gerald Fernandez. He's saying, "Good evening, ladies. Excellent topic. And Sharma looks the same as when I used to see her on TV." Oh, that was so many years ago. It's a bit like far-fetched.
I
I
told
think
you,
Gerald's
just
got a
take
hidden
it.
agenda.
He
And see,
means it, and he means it, and I take it. Thanks, Gerald.
Gerald? Yeah, okay. Okay, Gerald, you have about 45 minutes to get 2 more compliments coming. But never mind, we will move on to Sharma. So Sharma, back to our topic, right? So I what is in your mind that having led 2 lives, right? The corporate life and the consulting life now, right? So you're able to see both, right?
Yeah.
And what is talent acquisition for you? Give us an idea of what does it mean in your world.
Yeah. Thank you very much. And Sham, you also look very good. Malar, you look very good. I think that's in the order of the day to start. Yeah, when you talk about talent acquisition, my first discomfort, normally I'll tell you, not discomfort in a bad sense, is talent. Talent itself is a very specific word, but it's become like the blanket for any kind of recruitment. Whereas when you look at it as a purist, talent is really someone who is actually maybe in the potential, like, a high potential, or having some kind of promise, and there's something that we can use them for. So it is not to say everyone has got their, I'm not trying to cut anyone down to size, but that's how the phrase actually came up. You pick out the talents from the entire staff or the employees that you have. So when you talk about talent acquisition, I'm not going to go into the purist meaning. I'm just going to go into what it has become and evolved into, which is good, because I think terms should not be, just static. So when we talk about recruitment and we talk about talent, the difference is this: recruitment is very transactional. That means I have a position vacant. I'm the hiring manager. I will go and give it to HR and say that this it's an empty position. Pass me some CVs, and they would have some in their stockpile already, and they'll give it to me as a hiring manager. I look and say, okay, this good, not good. This good, okay, KIV this, call this for interview. Straightforward. So it's a very transactional process. But when you talk about talent acquisition, it's more strategic. You're actually having visibility, and you're totally aligned with what the company's direction is right now, where it's going. And therefore, are we going to be ready for it? Or are we just going to be caught unawares and say, we don't have that? But you knew we were going digital. Why didn't you plan? And this is not fair on recruitment, because they're actually always rushing positions. How many have they closed? It's a lot of work. So talent acquisition takes off this bigger load and says, where is the organization moving to? Or where are we right now? Where is it that in the bench strength that we are looking at? Where are our pockets of, we don't have enough people? Or where is it that the industry on a whole is going to? And we are not. And this is what happened to me in my organizations that I worked with, from the very first until the last. And Asham, as you mentioned earlier to us in our conversation, I worked in diverse industries. And I was actually told at one point that, why do you not stick to just one line of, an industry? And I said, no, because I really, in the sense, I like to work with people. I like to develop people. That's something I'm so passionate about. I think if I go to different industries, I get a better, idea of what gives and what makes. And that's where I am. So when I stepped out finally of my final job, it is really not to say that I was fed up. It's because now I really need to have full time to myself to actually go and develop and go and look at succession planning from the outside and say, this is what I've gathered in my 30 years of working right from my very first job. So talent acquisition, to answer your question, you know how I took the segue and now coming back. So talent acquisition is very strategic. You look at the long-term planning of it. So Malab, does that answer your question or confusing?
Even if I don't understand fully, I'm going to act clever and say, yeah, thank you for differentiating that for us. Because I think what we tend to do is we use the word interchangeably. Am I right? Yeah, we tend to think recruitment is talent acquisition, and talent acquisition means it's recruitment, right? Yeah. And I think our focus specifically is talent acquisition, because like what you put very accurately is that it's not just filling up a role, right? Yeah. It is really aligning filling up of the role to the vision, mission, and the values of the organization. Yes. Right? For whatever it actually takes. So I think I am okay. I hope I got that right. Sha?
Yeah.
Now, Now, I think you're very passionate. I think one of those things that we truly enjoyed, having you as a speaker, or during our prep session is, we are looking at. So last week we looked at acquiring talent from outside,
Mhm.
and you're very passionate. You have been passionate about building talent within, right?
Yeah.
And I think you introduce us to the word build or buy. I
Yeah.
like it. Do I build
Hmm.
my people the capacity, or do I buy, from
Yeah.
outside? So tell us, how do we make the choice? Because I think while we talk about retention, and we talk about why it's important to groom our own people, have growth within the organization, right?
Hmm.
We are still always saying that there is not enough talent within the organization, and looking
Hmm.
out, and even outside we say there's not enough talent for us to
Yeah.
acquire. So tell us, how do we make the choice? If I'm within an organization, how do I know, do I build or do I buy?
Okay. It's fairly simple. If I need to make a dish, and the dish is, let's say, dal, sambar dal, and I have no dal at home, can I build it? I need to
Mm,
buy it. So therein
mm,
lies the answer as a first point. That means if we don't have something, we go out and buy it.
mm,
But if we have something, we go ahead and just build on it, or build it further, right? Or use it. However, organizations work slightly differently from sambar dal, because what happens is there are so many grains of dal in an organization that they actually get bypassed. And sometimes someone is actually sitting there and screaming and saying, I'm fed up with my role. I've been in this role for 4 years. Last time it's up to 20 years. You could be sitting in the same department. You're getting worn out. And people are not looking at you to develop you in a different way. Because if you're in finance, remain in finance forever, forgetting that people are actually multi-talented and they have a lot of competencies and capacities in different ways. So this is where you decide if you want to build or buy. What is your organization strategy? Do you believe in investing in your people and developing them? Do you believe in moving them? But also the other question is there an urgency in this particular, let's say, project, that you need to get someone because there's an urgency? Let's say you managed to wing a big project, and the timelines of that is 6 months or 8 months, and you said let's go and build somebody in the organization. That's going to take a bit of time because your client has just given you 6 to 8 months, and it's a huge project. That's when you might just buy from outside because the urgency. So that's a term. The urgency is there. So you go buy someone ready made. Let's do it. So you go and get Grab and say just buy the dal and come back because I don't have time to cook it. So the same thing. That's the same thing you'll do. You'll buy it. But at the same time, it's important to also look that we came in this situation and we had to pay top dollar to buy someone because we were desperate. How can we avoid that? That's a strategic question. So how
mm,
do we actually plan our talent and say, like, now this is where when you talk about segmentalizing them, are they in the critical areas? Can they do the core roles, or are they in the strategic areas, or are they in the operational transactional areas? So when you segmentalize them, you begin to know that, okay, this person, Sham, is actually very, very good in this particular thing. She always is able to think about policy. She's able to connect the dots very well. She's been in this area for so long. Can we bring her out? And can we use her in that strategic areas where we want to plan, do visioning and things like that? So this is where then you say, okay, Sham, you have to talk to the person. Would you be interested to come into this new role? You'll need about 6 months, maybe we will help you to migrate to this. And how would you want to be developed? So when you have these conversations, the advantage is this: that person is already culturally attuned to the organizations, because remember, a lot of people leave because the cultural misfit. That reason is something that I can't take it. The values are different. I can't take it. If I think the workplace is made up of one kind of people that don't want to be, they're very rigid, I may not want to fit in. So we always go by the values of a place. So this is how you make your decisions. So is it an urgency? Is there a time frame to it? Is there a cost to it as well? It may be too expensive and you have the luxury of time. Build them up internally. It depends on the organization.
Okay, Sham,
If,
hold
if
on,
that, yeah, okay, okay,
please. Can hold your question.
mm,
Yeah, I'm because of what Sharma said, right? I'm just wondering, because you said we are paying top dollars when we buy talent. So are we building talent to save cost? Is that what you're saying?
No, remember I said there are a few factors like urgency, there's time, there's cost, and there are also headcounts. Like maybe for that project, you need about 6 people. If you multiply the cost of buying 6 people, you'll be going to paying so much. So this is where you may take a call and say maybe we take the 2 people and the 4 we shadow. They start shadowing these 2 people and they learn the job. So on the job training. So it's never about one factor can determine any decision. And if it does, then I think there must be an overarching reason, which I don't know. Too much money to throw away, we'll work there.
And it's like from what you said, right? Because last week when we had our speaker, he was talking about acquiring buying talents, right, Sham? And one of those things that he did, which was like really good, is how he continues to network so that he has access to talent, to know where they are, what they're doing, so that when there is a need, he know where to look out for this talent. And what I took away from you is also for us to do that internally, right? Because we're looking at like what you said, different grades, right? But how do I know how my current team of people who could be in a different department have something to offer me? And for that, I need to keep the communication going. I need to be listening. I need to know how they're thinking and what their skills might be and interests might be, is what I'm hearing. So I see this like some internal networking going on for to tap into our internal talent to find them. Okay, Sham, I pass it back to you.
Sham or Sharma?
Sham. Yeah. She gets a little bit tangled with those two things. Okay, I had a metaphor, and now, oh yes, I got the metaphor back again. Okay, you know how we talk about in sales, right? Acquiring a client is a lot more expensive or higher a cost than keeping the client, right? Once you've got the client, is actually, what you need to do is harness that client and keep it, right? So if you take that metaphor or analogy, not metaphor, but analogy, and look at it from a talent perspective, it works as well, right? It's the same thing. And you say, obvious, right? I mean, you have got this person in, you've put all the effort to get that person in, you want to make sure this person stays with you and retain them and keep it. Yet, so my question is, before I make the assumption, my question is, from your experience, do organizations generally think that way, or do they tend to think it's okay? We got them in. If it doesn't work, they go off. They leave. We just get another one in, right? And we continue to grow, right? As long it's not detrimental to us to the level that we're going to have to close shop. Right? Yeah. So some organizations, I'm going to go ahead and say, think that way strategically. It does not matter, because we can always buy. We don't have to build. So from your experience, where do you think most organizations tend to sit in? And why do they tend to sit that way? Or what makes one organization want to build, whereas another organization feels that they have to buy? That's the way they want to.
Yeah, building, people feel it takes a lot of work, because one is you're working with mindsets. For instance, if I've been working, let's say in accounts payable for the last 5 years, I'm in finance, I may not want to make a switch because I'm so complacent or happy there. And I know that I'm just going to be working this and go up the step ladder. That's it. But to answer your question, I think it's not a matter of organizations will just want to get up and say buy or build. It is more about, do we want to lose this person? Because that's what you call a regrettable loss, and there's a non-regrettable. So if someone is really a cherished employee and that's maybe a high potential or showing a lot of promise or very stable, someone that they don't want to lose, because some people just have to keep the lights on. Everyone has got a role. So they don't want to lose that person, because that's the one first in, keeps the place going, may not be in a critical or a strategic role, but needed. So it may still be regrettable. They won't want to lose this person. So you'll find that they may do a lot of things to keep this person happy. Not that they have differentiation, but that be a regrettable loss. So they will consciously now try to actually give some benefits to this person, because that's where performance management and performance reviews come in. Because this person is obviously doing a good job, reviews will be better, the ratings will be better, and they will receive better bonuses and everything else, right? But if it's a non-regrettable, and it's sad that people don't get into that because they can't work. It could be a cultural misfit. It could be because they had, personal reasons, and they have shared it with the organization, and they said they just cannot make it. They will not be able to. And that's not to say not regrettable, but in the sense that we understand what the person is going through. So it's more a matter of regrettable or non-regrettable rather than buying and building at random. It's not like maybe I made it sound like it's not like a stock market to say, okay, buy or build. No. So it's really a matter of the reasons that I want to buy something is every organization, especially if it's financially driven, they will definitely want to be savvy with their money. Financial savviness is important. So they have to justify even to the shareholders, internal, external, or even it's a private company. Everyone will need to justify. I didn't just spend and keep spending when I had someone internal. But I think if I might just digress and go a little bit into this buy and build, which is a very interesting thing, is, as I said earlier, a lot of people internally, sometimes they don't, the organizations do not even have this structure where they talk to them and ask them, what are your plans? It's like performance review is done. Nowadays it's done more frequently. Of course, people have these check-ins and things like that. But when it's done, it's more a matter what have you achieved, the KPI driven and things like that. And even when they have the feedback one, it's like having the chat over coffee. But how often is it actually said, like, would you like to do something differently? And the reason a lot of organizations don't do is because of the stability of that particular function or area. Imagine if you leave and then now they've, in fact, this particular organization that I was talking to, and they don't even allow rotation. Rotation, you can just go for maybe 3 months. They don't even allow that. The simple reason that they want the stability and, nothing to rock that particular function. Everyone should remain where they are. Now, that's not a very good way. When you talk about building, that's zero build. Whatever I'm doing for 1 year, year one, I'm doing it until year 20. Now, either I have to be really resigned to the fact that I'm happy about that, or I'll just go elsewhere where I think that I can be challenged if I'm more adventurous. So this buy build thing is a very, it's a dicey thing. It's not straightforward because there are a lot of factors that come into it. Yeah.
So going by what you mentioned, right? Regrettable, non-regrettable. You talked about earlier on. You talked about how talent needs to be let's redefine or revisit what talent really means, right? And you connected that to high potential.
Yeah.
And we, at one point in time, I remember high potential, high pulse was the term, the trend, the term of the year or the decade, right? Now it's talent. How do leaders spot talent? So I'm not talking about HR. I'm not talking about talent management, talent development. But if I'm a leader in a function and I've got a group of people, right? And I don't want to jeopardize my group, but at the same time, I don't want my people to leave, right? How do I spot the talent, right? How do I spot the talent what do I see? What do I look out for? What are things that I will be hearing to say, that's a potential that I want to, delve a little bit more. Yeah.
I like when you said that this is not so HR, but let me tell you, talent management actually is strategic, which means it's the entire organization. So talent management sets the agenda and says that high potentials should be picked up. Those are showing promise so that they don't get frustrated. It's just like someone who is raring to go and then gets frustrated because no one's noticing me, no one's developing me, no one's moving me. And what's going to happen? They are taken by the next organization. So here, when you talk about talent management, they are setting this agenda and talking to to all the leaders and the function heads and all of them, and giving them a structure and saying, this is what you need to look out for. Because if you are not around tomorrow, do you have 2 people at least who can come in your position? So that's where you start identifying successes, which are, again, they have to be showing promise or potential. So whether they are mid to high, or maybe they have gaps, but you know that they have the promise that they can develop themselves because they've shown that learning agility, they've shown the curiosity, they've shown the stretch. So these are the people that you actually got to educate the function heads and the leaders to say this is what you look for. So this is where across the board, they're actually given templates, they're given training, they're given all these talks and say what they need to look out for. Now, then this should go into the performance management discussions in the sense that what are your plans? Just the check-ins, even in the sense that would you like to do something different? It's not that you're offering them sometimes, but you need to know, because if something comes up, this is where the build comes up, because someone is actually shown, and then as the hiring manager or as the leader, you would actually know where this person is actually good at the competency. But what you'll do additionally now is you may want to stretch this person in certain areas that may be for a different function, because this person is not just going to sit in this particular role forever, because if they are really high potential, they want to move around, they want to move up as well. So a good leader of theirs will definitely want to put them through this stretch and say, would you like to do 2 days of a week if now I send you to Muller's area, because she's now handling this particular area, it will help you. And a person who is normally showing promise of high potential will say, yes, that's something I'd really cherish. Because it's like, I don't want to do the same old. So this is where when you talk about how do you actually pick out who are high potentials, the first thing is we differentiate between high performance and high potential. Someone performing well in that current job doesn't have to be a high potential, because they could be transactional. I have been, doing an Excel sheet for the last 5 years. I'm going to do it beautifully. I'm going to bring out the best data. I'm going to, be able to, but that doesn't make me a high potential, because high potential means moving up that particular ladder, right? And what does that mean? Leadership. That means being in charge. That means calling the shots. That means what? So you look at a person like that back to leadership qualities. So the hard skills are taken care of. Now we start looking at the soft skills. And as they always say, soft skills are not important, but they are really the tiebreaker. They are really the ones that, break the camel's back or not. So we look at them now. Do they have a strong will to grow? Are they having hunger? Are they ambitious? Do they take initiative? When there's no direction, are they the ones always coming forward? When things are like this, is leaderless, are they the ones emerging the leader? And are they doing it well? Emerging leader and just, failing all the time, or just putting your agenda and not listening to the rest is not the best leadership quality. Are you inclusive? So you look at all these things over time, and this is where observation is important. Feedback is important when you talk to the team and you find out these things. So this is where you start finding out now. And then high posts normally are the ones who not just having that leadership or that leading trait, but they're also very inclusive in terms of very team centric. They are happy to work with the team. Now, people who are individual contributors they are very good in their work, but they prefer to be just left alone. So you look at leaders actually are those that, are happy to work with teams, and they're able to just say, okay, let's partition this. Okay, you do that, we do that. We come back in half an hour and just look at it. No one told them to do it. So if they're showing this kind of qualities, they're showing empathy, they're showing connectivity, you know that these are people not just good in their job functionally, but they are also good in terms of as a high potential, because that's what you want. Because the higher up you move, you're not going to be doing functional areas. You're going to do things that are planning, visioning, strategy, people connection, client, facing, stakeholder management. You're going to look at that. So these are the things that you're seeing. That is this person building up these things? So this is how you will start identifying. But that's now an observation and what you see. There's a more formal way that this is now done. Now, let's say I have a feeling that, Muller is showing signs of being a high potential, or Gerald is, since Gerald gave me a good compliment. Gerald is showing signs of being a high potential. So now we will look at, what do his performance reviews show? So we will look back at at least the last 3 years. Normally that's in the system. We will look back and say, okay, this person has been a B plus, from A to D, let's say has been a B plus, has been an A, has been a, so okay, performance-wise, very sound. And what about in terms of, behavior? You may be very good in your job, but you could be a cutting edge. You could be the sword itself, slashing everybody in the process. So this is where you look at the behavioral part of it. What is that feedback coming back? You talk to the hiring manager, you talk to team people, and these are the performance reviews. Then at the same time, you feel that because we really have to groom someone, we don't have someone that is, 2 down, ready in 2 years, ready immediately, the bench strength. So now you start looking at this and say, maybe Gerald is the one we want to look at. So let's do a 360. Let's pick up about 5 or 10 people that we think we can put into a development track. So now we bring them out and we start doing a 360. A 360 is where you're actually going to let those that are 1 down rate them, their peers rate them, their managers rate them, and then again, maybe customers and clients, external and internal, the top as well. So people that they interact with will now rate them. And this is actually sometimes initially when organizations who don't run it, the first time can be very painful. And what happens, it's actually, it's a tell all, bear all, whatever, and it's anonymous. And people become very reclusive in the sense that, or they push back. But as you do it annually, it becomes one of the most useful exercises, because I've seen people will actually say that because of the 360, I've actually realized my blind spots. I've actually realized that this is what I appear to people. Like the Johari's window, we don't know sometimes what we are. When someone tells us, only then. And this is where now, because you want to grow a leader, you have to tell them that. So this is where you do a 360 feedback. But it doesn't end there, because from there you draw up the, yes, Gerald, you're hired. Sham, I've arranged the papers. No?
Too expensive.
No buying, we're only building. So this is where, So this is where they will actually do all these things. And so 360 will help. But once you have things like performance review, you have things like 360 and other interventions like personality, assessment profiles, you're familiar with that, how you can actually see the other side of a person as well. Look at, and then we can also do assessment centers. So all these things actually give you a much better 360 view about the person. Because you do not, the last thing you want to do is actually pick the wrong leader, because the entire ship can just sink after having a very successful journey for the last 20 years. Yeah, so that's exactly how the whole thing works. Like, it's a huge machinery.
Yeah, it's a huge machinery. It's it was a very detailed response. Thanks for that, Sharma. I think it's the right time to bring in Gerald's question, because so I'm going to ask Gerald's question, and then I'm going to hand over to Malar, right? So Gerald's question is, during COVID times or post-COVID, what are the challenges in talent acquisition for organizations, given that, it's a huge, this huge, almost huge monster, right, that we have to go through, not a monster, but machinery that has to be put in place for us to do that. What are you seeing anything? Are you seeing the challenges being different? Not really. What?
A big change, a big shift has happened. I think all of us are hearing that, experiencing that. Among my ex-colleagues, we're talking about it in different places. So when before the pandemic, we know what it was, right? Everyone's having a job. They move whatever they want to. When COVID happened, the first knee-jerk reaction is, will we be able to hold on to our job? That was really important. That means people were now not looking at, even if you make me work at home, I know it's difficult. Yes, we were having all those issues, but at the same time, just having a job, people were very grateful for. Now, as the pandemic, it's still there, but endemically there. So, and now I don't even know, Gerald, if it's a post-COVID. I really hope that, that becomes true and we are really post-COVID. But, now as we are in this stage of it, 301 or whatever it is, the challenges are different, because what people have experienced is it's possible to work at home, to have this work-life balance. It's possible for me to call the shots and say, I'm having a bad day. The power became in the hands of the employee. So they begin to have new terms of reference. That means I can't come in today. I'm sorry. Even when they started doing team A and team C will come in on these days, team B and they started doing that. And someone at team B will say, sorry, I can't. That power, that new power that was there. So what happens with talent acquisition then, to answer your question? Therefore, if you look at now the great places to work in 2022, of the 100 that they are there, the one trend is the power has gone in the hands of the employees, in the sense that they are so central. It's become very employee-centric, not that it wasn't before. But even larger organizations are finding out that they have to stoop to some extent. Of course, they're not bending backwards, because the work has to go on, the business has to stay, and the lights have to come on. But the main thing here is they realize They want empowerment, we will empower them. They want some flexibility, we are going to let it be flexible because they are mindful. These are good employees. We don't want to lose them. They were with us in the most difficult times. So that whole challenges in talent acquisition now is how do we actually manage that? Because some of them are coming with preposterous demands. Because if you do it once,
can you
do
it's an
it for the
employee
rest?
market, right?
It's an employee market, and look at that now. Right now, it's so difficult. It's difficult. The market is shrinking. There are so few people that are actually wanting jobs. At the same time, in certain sectors, there are so many that are not getting jobs. So you have this whole mismatch going on. And so now they are saying that what exactly can we offer them? Because if we do it now, so all the time HR is thinking, and not just HR, because this is a business decision. So the leaders are coming together and saying, where is a sweet spot for us? Where can we actually make some allowances? So in the sense that, okay, they've allowed, hybrid, we will have this core model. That's the easiest part. But what about perks and, all the other benefits? How the holidays actually go? So all these things are being redefined, Gerald. So it's really a question that, we have, it's like turned on its head right now.
Yeah.
I'm going to take some water while you ask me the next question.
Sure. Mallory, you want to, I'm just going to read out Gerald's comment to what you answered, Sharma. Thank you. With the hybrid, work from home, etc., other issues have cropped up, such as mental stress, motivation, etc. It's a huge area to rectify. All right, spot on. There's lots of work to be done. I think, obviously, because Malar and I are biased, obviously, because if the work was done earlier on pre-COVID, much of this could have been managed, I think, a lot easier and better during the COVID time. Okay, Malar, over to you. Thanks, Gerald, for engaging with us and engaging with Sharma with your questions and your comments. So everyone else who is listening out there, you know us by now. There's no such thing as a wrong question or a wrong comment or a wrong opinion, right? Just bring it on, and at best we'll make fun of you, lah. But that's what do you call this? Very rarely happens. Malar.
Yeah, I was going to say we only make fun of people we know. Yeah. What was I going to say? Right. One of those things I realized from what Sharma was saying when she was answering Gerald's question is this, right? During the pandemic, I had two types of requests for managers, right? Like one group of managers who are actually really happy with the new way of working because they get it, right? And then there's another group, they're saying, we're not sure what we need to do to make it work, right? And for me, the major difference when I worked with these two groups is that the managers or the leaders who, who felt that I like this, working from home, and they didn't have trust issues, is because they had already built a very strong foundation in terms of relationship already pre-pandemic. It was an ongoing thing. Whereas I think for the managers who didn't have a relationship, and you're at work, everybody is there, there's a system running. When these people started working from home, these managers had problems because they had no connection, no rapport, right? And they didn't know how do you jumpstart. They thought they can continue the way it used to be when they were working, together, but it wasn't working anymore, right? So from what you were actually saying is that pre-post, I think relationships are really, really very important. And I'm sure you would agree with me that in identifying talent, we need to really watch what people are good at, right? So while we have the desire to build talent, you need to look, you need to hear, you need to look out for evidences that they are talented and they are high potential. But while our intentions are noble, right? What are some traps that you think you see, people falling into, organizations or leaders falling into in building talent?
The traps are definitely there. It's like when you said when they're building talent, is it?
Yeah,
The
building
trap in
talent.
building talents. So building is something that when you build, it's all internal, right? So the good part is they will know the culture, they've experienced, but at the same time, you know how that sluggishness and complacency comes in. It's
Mm,
same old, because you're the
mm,
jago kampong and you want to
mm,
remain the jago kampong. And this is
mm,
where there's lack of diversity of ideas. You don't want to think further. And one thing that I've heard very often during this COVID thing was, if we have survived the COVID, don't worry, we are good. We don't need to change very much. That was the biggest test of us. So that complacency, that when I heard that, it was like, actually a lot of things could have gone wrong. And this is where I think I have to salute HR, because the way in the pandemic, they reworked everyone's work areas, work from home, giving them the equipment, looking into that was a lot. Someone did it. It was not that it just happened like that.
mm,
But here it
mm,
is, actually saying that, oh, we could survive the pandemic. Don't worry, we are good to go. Just life as normal. Now that was wrong, because the traps of this is exactly when you actually build talent. It's very good. You're getting that whole continuity. You have a good cultural fit, but this kind of complacency comes in, and this can be very toxic when somebody new comes in the organization and they hear this, because for them they'll say, oh, I thought I could bring in some change, I thought I could make a difference, but if I'm going to fall in this thing, then within 1 week they resign. And sometimes within 3 days, they have 3 days in some organizations to sign the letter of acceptance,
Mm.
and they have not signed it. So before I even know it, they've taken a U-turn and gone off. So it's normally when people have been there longer, they make these brazen statements which actually are not sustainable. So these are the things that when you use the same people and all that, and of course the age old things about nepotism comes in. I've known you for so long, so you're the one who's going to get the promotion, or just stick with me, the cartel that works. So this is all the traps that come internally.
Mm. Mm.
And do you see any where we get maybe biased towards either some skill or age group that we tend to be biased towards to think of as as talent? Because whenever I am called to work with organizations, Shama, you need to tell me, this is like a question that's popping up for me right now, right? Whenever we talk about talent or talent development work, right? Very often,
Mhm.
I find that we tend to think the talent is either young graduates, generally
Mm.
the young people. I have not really, no, actually, I have one client, only one client. When they talk about talent, they look at people as people. Doesn't matter your age, doesn't matter where your experience, how experienced you are within the organization. Then they have talent of at different levels of within the organization. So, do you see in your experience, because you would have worked with a lot more, clients,
Mhm.
right? Do you see that sometimes that our biasness can be a trap? And if it is, what are we biased towards?
Yeah, that's actually a very good observation. I faced it myself. Yeah, I faced it because I've been in an organization where, even though I was leading a team, the younger ones, above me, and I don't mind. My boss I'm reporting to is younger than me. I don't have that. But what happens? Someone from outside looking in will say, like, oh, are you sure you can do this? Are you sure? And always a condescending remarks that come. What do you mean that? Am I sure? Am I not doing it? It's like someone who doesn't know me will say something like that. So, but not just, it's not about me alone. So this ageism kind of things that come in, and things like that. And it's a really, really something sad, because I have done so much of work in terms of looking at talent, assessing them. And now when I do my assessment centers, I actually I go to so many places. I work with so many organizations that we are looking at them. And age is not the determinant, because really, when you talk about it, it's your mindset. And someone who says that I can do this, like for instance, I had this particular candidate, and he was shortlisted for a position, a promotion. But that organization was really good because they wanted to put them through an assessment center for all the candidates, so that they all got the same benchmarking and they will be assessed, the same way. And this person came in and he was younger, and so thought that he would be the one who'll make it, because the others were somewhat a little bit older. So even the way that he was presenting, it was like, surefire, this is mine. And what happens? Now we are assessing you for behavior. the precision of the facts that you're giving us in that little half-day assessment center is not so important. You get your statistics wrong, it's fine, because you only have 15 minutes to prepare a particular simulation, let's say. What was coming across was his behavior. Like, I can just wing it like that, or I could do it, or I know that. But the presentations were so lame. He did not even for a start know what is strategic. When he had to do a whole business case simulation, he started off just going into the minor details. And when we had the older people, they had very sound, very sound fundamentals, and they were able to do that. And did that position. It's not about judging people for no reason. It is did the position that they were applying for. What did it require? It required someone instantly able to categorize, segmentalize, strategize, and all that. And these people had it. But we also, the good thing is this, we told that person in the report, we just said that, this is where your strengths are, but these are what you need to work on. Now, credit to that person. This person went back and said, okay, give me 6 months and come back and reassess me. And from our sources within the organization, when we went back for the next round of assessment centers, and they did for all the leadership candidates, what happened is he actually made a change. And we heard it from the hiring managers and also the colleagues, that he actually found out, he went around and said, tell me what's wrong with me. Tell me why can I. And he actually had, and that was a saving grace, because one is to have that attitude, but the other is to be open about it and say, okay, give it, because you care about your trajectory. You care about where you're going. You care about how people perceive you. And that assessment center made a big difference to him. So it's like, people do use this kind of things, Mother. It happens. This classifying, categorizing, stereotyping, unconscious bias.
Carry on. Unconscious bias.
Yeah. No, I stopped there. I mean, there's a whole basket of things there.
Okay, so I'm got a follow-up question I want to ask, because it's related to what Mala asked, right? And then Mala, you can take it back, right? So you raised an important point that he used the feedback to help him become in that role, or to be considered as a high potential, right? I want to go back to what you mentioned earlier on. There's a difference. You said there's a difference between a high performer and a high potential.
Yeah.
Right. So if Sham, I'm a high performer. I do the Excels beautifully. I bring out the best in the Excels and I project it well. And because I'm a high performer, I consider myself a high potential until I'm told otherwise. Right. So I want to become a high potential. What does a high performer need to do to become a high potential? Because I'm sure there are a lot of high performers out there who want to get onto that track. They do not want to be on the technical track, right? They want to be in the they see themselves that way, and for some reason they wonder, they're clueless, or they get upset, or it annoys them that everybody, the leaders don't see them as high potential, right? And they get frustrated. So if I'm a high performer, how do I transform myself to become a high potential? Is there a way?
Excellent question. Yeah. Very good question. I like that. I'll tell you this one thing. Sometimes we are in a role where we are not totally passionate about. When you're passionate about something, you actually will become a high potential, because now your drive is different. So a lot of times when I actually coach some of the younger ones, I tell them, have you really found the area that you are passionate about? Because if you haven't, you're just going to be transactionally doing things. Then you become a good performer, a high performer. Potential will be very much there if you think that now I really want to know more about this. The hunger, the drive, the questions, the curiosity, and not just that. For me to succeed, I know Sham and Muller and Gerald and everyone else has to be the same boat as me. So you make sure that, have you got it right? Have you got it? You become that team player. Automatically, because passion, not to say is the only factor, it kickstarts a different behavior. So sometimes people, not to say they don't have the potential, but if you put me in an area of, let's say, doing something that's a financial or accounting, I'm a zero on that. I'm just going to regress. Am I going to show any potential? I'm not even going to show performance. I'm not going to be able to, because this is where, but if you give me the right thing, and this is why when we talk about personality profiling and assessment centers, especially personality profiling, find out who you are. They may not be conclusive, but they give you a guide. They give you a guide, workplace big five, like one of them that I use, in the sense it tells you, where are you draining? Because sometimes we don't look at ourselves internally. So it's really important. This is talent management. This is the part about talent acquisition. You actually, before you take on someone, you can make them go through this battery of tests. You can actually go to, because they find out about themselves, you find out about them, then you validate these things. Because you look at their past and see what are the career choices they've made. What are the times that they actually left? What are the reasons? Everyone is a work in progress. That's why HR never gives up, because you really have to put them in the right place and they will shine. So this is exactly what I'm saying, is like, potential can be in the right place. You give the people the right place, the right tools, the right environment, and that's it. They shine differently. So it could be the organization itself enabling or not, or it's a disabling environment.
So if I'm just taking it one step further, right? So I'm a high performer. Sharma is my one up, okay, and plus one. I want to become a high potential. What's the question I should ask my one up to get feedback or insight from my one up, right?
Okay.
So if I want to have that conversation.
Sure, very good question. But I think there's one point that I must bring up here, which is very pertinent to this discussion, is when we talk about high potentials, we are actually identifying them for certain areas. That means there's always this org chart, and then there's the critical positions, the strategic positions. We actually, when you identify someone as a high potential, you're putting them somewhere in these critical or strategic roles. So because that positions are critical, they cannot be, you cannot have a no successor. So you must have someone who is ready today. If this person goes off, there must be someone ready in the next 1 to 2 years. There must be someone. So the bench strength is important. So the question is not per se like, what do I take to be a potential? My question to then Sham would be, I'm your one up. I'll tell you, like, let's discover now, what is it that you're really interested in? Because I may have worked with you, but you may not have shared the discussion. I'll take it backwards and say, what are your interests? You worked here for 2 years, 3 years. Now tell me, which are the areas that you're looking at? Because then you begin to tell me, then I map your trajectory and say that's what will take you to be a high potential. Then we work out your development plan together. Because it's like, it has to be a match. A high potential is a match with what? So you have to tell me, this is where it's a very good question. What exactly are you looking at? Because you may want to go in a totally different area. I'm actually looking at, and then we will actually see behavior points and skills. Skill is the one you can upskill. Behavior, does this person have that? Because is this person naturally, able to take risks, or is always going to fall back and not take even a single risk? Because leaders have to take risks at times. Or in taking risk, is this person too brazen and doesn't weigh the options well? So we have to look at the whole picture and look at that scenario and see how is it going, or how can we now develop that person differently.
Okay. Take your water. I'm going to clue. Malar, it's 6 minutes to the hour. It's yours to do what you want to do.
Basically close the session right now. Right. Well, I think she gave us a lot of very valuable input from helping us to understand. I think we tend to use these labels very loosely, I think. And what I really appreciated about this session is that, Sharma gave us very clear indicators, differentiating recruitment and, talent acquisition, high potential and high performance, right? And how do we actually build talent within? What are some changes that we can make? And what I also liked about it is that I think it's not just one thing that you need to do. You need to look at various factors. So there's a lot of to be in clarity about talent, which is really important, right? And what is also very clear is that we need to look at different angle, right? So it's not just the organization or the managers looking out for talent, but individuals knowing what they're passionate about, because the passion differentiates them, right, from being a high performer. So I picked that up. And of course, when it comes to passion, we need to know how your heart and mind come together, right? So I think she says all of that, and she gave us a lot of step by step as to what are the things that we actually need to do to get going. Are you okay, Sharma?
No, I I've been having this dry cough, but that's fine. I'm fine now. So the tear came down not because you touched my hearts and mind, but that
Yeah,
too.
I know. Because I
Yes.
said step by step, and then she, like teared, and I was thinking,
Drama Queens 3 times 3.
yeah. So I think there was the whole thing, and I think what I also really like is the example of assessment centers, right? And the example that you gave us regarding this particular guy, because I think what was interesting is that the fact that he wasn't ready, and he took charge, he took ownership of
Yes.
being ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anyone who wants to shift from high performance to high potential, if we could just have that opportunity to get the right feedback,
Yeah.
because I could be hungry, but I need the right feedback to come to me so that I can then look for resources and grow and be given a second chance and a third
Yep.
chance. I think this is an amazing way to retain talent that may
Yes.
not be ready now, but may be ready tomorrow. Right?
Exactly. Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. Finally, she said something very good about me. She said very good to two of your questions. I was getting nervous.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay.
Yeah, I know, but she said very good. Okay, I'm just coming. I am ready tomorrow, Sham. I'm not ready today. Okay, so I still have opportunity to improve. I think that's really interesting because I think what happens with talent acquisition when we are acquiring externally or when we are applying for jobs, right? Active job seekers, we get many opportunities when we go for interviews.
Yeah.
They come right. Whereas people who are either passively seeking or not seeking until something goes really wrong, they may not get a chance to know where they really are.
Yeah.
And organizations need to put in measures to keep people in the loop, to check in, to say, where am I now? What can I do better? What are the skills that I can learn? In fact, I'm thinking, right, if this system is actually strongly placed in organization, even L&D will become more important in the
Yeah.
sense that people will sign up for causes that they know is going to add value and
Yeah.
help them become high potentials, which means they take ownership of learning.
Yeah.
So the stress of motivating people to learn and making sure
Mhm.
their work or making it micro credential is not so important already, because the system will take care of itself.
Say
Right?
of all of that. Yeah.
I like
Okay.
what you said. I like what
Yeah.
you said.
And
Mm.
then the choice of programs in development, either personal or professional development, would be more people would be more mindful about. I mean, L&D would be more mindful about it, because
Yeah.
sometimes, I mean, we still have a lot. I mean, there are a lot of companies, organizations that are mindful already.
Yeah.
I think, yet at the same time, there is that level of growth to going in. I think my biggest takeaway from this is that as an individual, I can do something if I want to get into that high potential space.
Yes. Yep.
And I think that's very critical, very insightful, because we tend to say the leader should be doing this or HR should be doing this.
Yeah.
This is a HR space. This is if it's not HR, it's my leader's space. So if I'm not in a talent program, it's not my fault. It's my leader. I didn't get nominated by my leader. We all need to take responsibility for our development, I think, to a certain level. Yeah. Thank
In
you
fact,
so
that's
much for
what.
being here.
Sorry, can I just say what? Because I like what both of you said. I just wanted to put in one line. In fact, now this is what the post-COVID thing is. There's what you call democratization of talent. So it's actually back in their hands to say what you tell us what career path you want. Not to say you get it, but you must have an idea. How often do employees think about their path? And then what kind of career development do you want? What kind of training? What kind of learning do you want? So including micro credentials.
Exactly. All right. And for those of you who are in Malaysia, you know exactly what we're talking about when we say micro credentialing and what we are referring to. And we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Sharma, for giving us 1 hour of your day. I know you need to run because you've got something else on, so we're going to let you go. But thank you very much for sharing with us. Not just your experience, but your nuggets. I like the way you have crystallized some of those thoughts into, high performance and high potential, regrettable versus non-regrettable loss and things like that. So thank you for making the complex a little bit more simple for us to understand.
And
Thank
so
you, dear ladies.
Yes, thank you for taking us step by step with the various contexts that we were talking about. I think the context was just simple, very, very clear. I mean, I feel I understand talent acquisition much better and building internal talent much better. So we know that now, you know that where Sharma is, please find her, please connect with her and ask her all the questions that we didn't ask, but share the answers with us. With that, Sharma, would you like to say anything else before we say good night?
I will just say it's such a pleasure to work with the two of you again. I mean, it's been some time, but really good, really, really good. I mean, it was so easy to connect. And I'm glad I was able to actually share the little bit that I think is important in this area. But you guys are doing amazing work. Keep it up. Thank you so much. And thank you to all those who are listening as well and your questions.
Thank you, Sharma. So we'll let you go so that you can go for your hot dinner date. And while we do that and say goodbye to Sharma now. Okay. Goodbye. Oh, Sharma doesn't want to go. I made the technical error and blamed her for it. Okay, so that's nice. That was a lot of input. I don't know how I'm going to do the summary. So, Sham, you see, whenever you are in Malaysia, the kind of nuggets that we can take out is so much more. We need to do this more often. Anyway,
no, we don't need to do that very often every week. So I'm giving you me in doses. Okay, Gerald, thank you for joining us.
Oh yeah, Gerald, nice. I don't know whether you're hired. We'll pass your CV to Sharma. All right. So Sham, I think we should end this shortly. Is there any announcement that you want to make besides the fact that please connect with us on LinkedIn. Most importantly, subscribe to our YouTube and Spotify. You can watch us or listen to us. With that, this is Malar signing off from Kuala Lumpur
and Sham from Singapore via Kuala Lumpur for this week. See you next week, same time. And a new link. And next week we have another speaker who to give us a different perspective or another perspective of talent acquisition. Bye, everyone.